This is it. This is your life. We spend a lot of time, especially in our younger days, preparing to live life, preparing to finally have enough knowledge or money or free time or the right relationship or be in the right location to do X, Y, Z, fill in the blank, whatever it is that your special hobby, special idea of freedom or happiness is. Whatever hobby it is that you're waiting to pursue, whatever dream job it is that you're waiting to apply for or business you're waiting to start. These are all the things that we put in our head and we say, once I meet X condition, I can start to do Y or I'll finally feel like Z. But that's not really what happens. There's no dress rehearsal for this thing. There's no pre-gaming of life. There's no previews before the movie. You're in the movie right now. And sometimes I have to remind myself that when I'm waking up in the morning and I'm thinking of what I'm doing today so that I can enjoy tomorrow or so that I can be happier in the future, there is no future. This is it. Like everything is the present. And then even when I get to the future, I'll still feel as if it's a present moment. The future is always something, it's an abstract concept that we never reach. And the past is also back there. We can't touch it. So we can't touch anything but the present. And yet we're always thinking about the past and the future. And what ends up happening is we don't remember that we are the main character in our own movie and that the choices that we're making are creating the script as we go along. When you say a word to someone and they respond to you, you're controlling the script of your life. When you take an action, you're writing the director's notes of your life. You are both the actor and the director of this movie that you're living in. And oftentimes I feel like because life can be pretty stressful, we sometimes dissociate from the fact that we are controlling how our day unfolds for the most part. We look at it as a third person. We look at ourselves from above and we say, "Oh, well, look at all the things that's happening to him or her today. This is a pretty tough go of it. Man, the director of this movie must really not like that actor." And we forget that we are directing and as well as acting. And have you ever considered the fact that the thoughts that come to you and the words that come out of your mouth is just the filter for God? You are just as an individual a filter for the thoughts and the mind and the words of God. You're speaking him, her, it through you. Otherwise, those things wouldn't be created. They say, in physics and science, nothing can be created or destroyed. And if that's the case, then every word that's ever been spoken, every thought that's ever been had, every emotion that's ever been felt is still out there in the world, in the universe, and we're just absorbing all of that. And there's nothing original that comes out of any one of us. And so we are perspectives for God. But of course, we forget about that on a day-to-day basis, and we think that we are just getting ready to live someday. Or if this was a long time ago, back in the feudal times, in the medieval times, we'd say, well, I don't need to have a good life now. I'll just have a great life in the afterlife, and we just live for the next life, live this life for the next life. I'm sure that was an ancient mindset. That of course now we want to live. We want to have a great life now. We don't want to have to wait until we're dead to feel good about our lives. We want to we want to feel great about it while we have the chance to enjoy it. And so you just got to snap out of it. It's really easy to zone out and to forget that you are creating all of this. And even when things happen to you that you feel that you don't have a hand in, you are still creating your response. And your response does create a marked and observable effect on the world. Now we could get into the physics of it, and we could get into how I read an article a couple weeks ago that says that humans are creating their reality in reverse because our actions affect our actions affect the past. And the past affects the present. I mean, I read all these crazy articles all the time, and I don't know how much of it is true. I don't know what physicists are really researching right now. I'd have to look this up. But I do read, so I am reading a lot of things like Reality Transurfing, which I think is one of the best books on understanding the fabric and the nature of reality. And of course, I can't go anywhere without some Seneca. I know Stoicism has gotten its due in recent years. Letters from a Stoic. While we're still on that train, I can't go anywhere without some Marcus Aurelius. These are all books that help you think about the fact that, one, reality is malleable, and two, you're going to die anyway, so you might as well live. I talk about this in my own book, The True Artifact. In fact, let me read something to you. This is from chapter 19. This is called This Is It. This is it. At the core of human experience, there's an intangible quality that we can't put words to, but we are constantly searching for. We're looking for the it, the underlying current of somethingness that precedes and supersedes all other causes. You can't explain exactly what it is, but you remember intimately from archived memory the feeling of being connected to it since before you were born. The it is outside of the day-to-day humdrum, the electric bill, and what's on TV tonight, outside of your career or business, outside of the relationships you have, the tragedies in your life, or the things that keep you up at night. The feeling of the cold morning air in your lungs or the sun on your face, the sensation of your hand through the salty ocean or fresh clumps of grass sprouting up through your toes on a spring day. This is it. The very fact that you're here is it. The distinct marvel of your existence is it. The fact that you can experience is it. The reality that you're not just a physical body, but also a perspective of experience momentarily illuminated by consciousness. This is it. We hide from the it. We cover it up with distractions, relationships, and work because we don't always want to be confronted with the bigness of the situation. Like staring into the sun, sometimes just being alive is so intense, it hurts, so we have to look away from it. We go about our lives feeling separate from the world. Sometimes we feel like aliens on a strange planet trying to learn the rules, constantly coming up short. But we are not any more separate from the world than a tree from the ground. We don't just arrive here by chance. We sprouted from here. You are not a mere addition to the universe, a tacked-on afterthought. No, no, no. You are an integral part of the very same, and the reason you cannot see it is the same reason the fish cannot see that it is wet. This is it. It's really easy to get stuck in your head and on a day-to-day basis forget that you are God playing itself, himself, herself. And that might sound like a terrible responsibility because we didn't sign up for that job, but we kind of did. So knowing that, when you have something on your heart that is really important to you, know that that feeling that you're feeling is coming from a divine place. And because it's emanating from a divine place, you have the power within inside you to create whatever you want based on that emotional and spiritual tie to whatever it is that you have. I believe that we all have a unique purpose on the earth, and I believe that we go through life trying to create a lot of additional things for ourselves to think about and play with and possess, whether it's like material possessions or relationships or status symbols. But really, finding ourselves is a process of stripping away all of that extra shit, all of that extra baggage. And the more adept you get at stripping away, the closer you'll get to finding your unique essence. This is how I've always felt about writing and then eventually starting a publishing company with New Wave Press. It's like I always felt like, wow, this is exactly what I am supposed to be doing. It's not something that someone else thinks I should be doing or something that someone else has tried to place upon me. This is exactly what I feel. And that had to come from stripping away the expectations of others, not trying to wear them. And it might take you your whole lifetime to figure out that you have always had permission to go out and do this. But once you do, life becomes more alive. Life feels more fluid. Life feels more full of possibility and surprise and excitement because you're not having to drag yourself through the day. And that allows you to be more present. And then when you're more present, you can put more energy into the things. And the more energy you put into the things, the better they end up working. And I don't just mean energy like pushing, trying. I mean the emotional energy of giving it your best because you're really invested. And it's hard to invest in someone else's thing. So this is just my observation. Live. You're here in the present for a reason. You don't need to be thinking about the future all the time and worrying about that, or the past all the time and thinking about what you should have said or done differently. You're here now, and you're in the movie. There is no rehearsal. There is no warm-up. And that's okay. That's a great thing. And you might, when you wake yourself up, look around and realize that you are in exactly the spot that you said you wanted to be 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you were so asleep that you didn't even realize that you had gotten what you asked for all those years ago. And that's the tragedy, right? That's the tragedy of when we're so locked in to the future or so wrapped up in the past, we can't even acknowledge that the place we are now is what we hoped would be our future in the past. We hoped we'd be at this moment, and now that we're here, we take it completely for granted. That should charge you up. And also realize that oftentimes when we get to the place that we have been hoping to get to over a period of years, oftentimes we don't feel like we think we're going to feel. We don't feel the sense of relief that we hope to feel. We don't feel the sense of completion that we hope to feel. And when that's the case, acknowledge that and note that, because if you can acknowledge and note that accomplishing the goal, while it might feel good, doesn't change this feeling inside of you of like needing to accomplish, and doesn't really make you feel like you have no work left to do or that you feel completely secure. If you can acknowledge that accomplishing the thing doesn't feed the beast, then it gives you permission to continually set your goals, but not attach yourself too much to the outcome, because you know that no matter what happens, you're never going to feel like you've figured it out. You're never going to feel like you've conquered it. You're never going to feel like now you can finally rest. At least I can speak from my perspective, and I think that's a very masculine perspective, if I do say so myself. But it's a masculine perspective of there always being another battle, right? But this is the truth. You're never going to quite feel like you have hit your potential if you're aiming correctly. Because if you're aiming correctly, you should be aiming to shoot past what you're currently believing that you're possible of, into something that's completely unheard of, uncharted territory. But that's hard, and you have to be able to be present to do that. If you're only thinking of where you're not, so like I'm not where I want to be in the future, or what happened in the past, you won't have the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual energy to devote everything you have to the right now, and everything is happening in the right now. Everything is happening in the present, and the future is created from present moments until they become the present, and the past is viewed through the perspective of the present. If something happens to you now, it might change your view of something that happened to you in the past. You might, for instance, if you find out, later in life that you had a sibling that you never knew, it might change the way that you view your past growing up, your parents, your family, your view of yourself. And nothing would have happened except that you would have learned new information in the present, and all of a sudden your past is thrown into question. And the past, of course, is always only just a reflection of a present moment that's no longer here. It's always just an impression. It's always just a phantom, right? You can never touch the past. So isn't this interesting that the present can affect not only the future by what we do that leads to the future, but also the past by our perception of the past in the present. But it's all only happening in the now. You didn't think we would get so metaphysical, did you? But yeah, that's it, guys. So appreciate what you have now and give it everything. So if you were to get hit by a truck today, if you were to get hit by a semi truck walking across the street, I want you to feel like I can't want anything for you more than you want for yourself, but I would hope that you'd feel like you had done enough. Like you'd feel like you were on the path and you were doing the thing that you wanted to do, and so all of the rest was upside. And if you don't feel like that, obviously there'll be some days where you don't. You're not having a good day, acknowledged. But like the trajectory of your life should constantly feel like it's moving towards the highest ideal of yourself, which is a hard statement because it's challenging to do that. But especially as you move from your 30s into your 40s, we have to be looking at self-actualization. We have to be looking at doing the things that we internally know are aligned with us, and not trying to pose or pretend or be someone that we're not, because that ain't it anymore. It's 2026. That ain't it. And I think we've seen quite well with all of our, as millennials, with our college and university experiences, with our career experiences, that if we leave it up to others to tell us how we should spend our time, or what types of jobs we should have, or what types of relationships we should be in, we're not going to be happy. We've seen generations before us try that model, it didn't work, and many of us tried that model ourselves, it doesn't work. So the only real solution is to be super honest with yourself about what feels good to you and about how you want to point your ship, and go for that. But you can only do that when you're plugged into the present. When you're plugged into the here and now, you can make better decisions for yourself because you're not living in a state of either anxiety for the future or regret for the past. So I always come back to it. It's about staying present and realizing that this is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. There is nothing better down the road. There is nothing that is going to happen that's going to change how you feel about yourself internally, even though that is such a big lie that we're sold. We're sold that the accumulation of external rewards or status or others' adoration, it's all external. We're sold the lie that those external things will change an internal state. And that's just not the case. Sometimes those external things actually exacerbate an already turbulent internal state. Les Brown also always said this. He always said, everyone says that being rich isn't going to make you happy, but they still want to find out for themselves. And I think that's such an apt and accurate description. It would be nice if we could listen to the wisdom of others and truly absorb that wisdom without having to have the experience, because it would make everyone grow faster. But unfortunately, I think that people do want to, was it FAFO, fuck around and find out? People do want to find out for themselves that the things that they think will make them happy won't make them happy. Even if they don't know this consciously, there's a subconscious longing to, I think, there's a subconscious longing to constantly be on some sort of journey, something that forces us to evolve. And if we don't consciously do it, I think that we subconsciously put ourselves in positions to try, fail, and have to hit rock bottom in order to build ourselves back up. And so just knowing that, you can take conscious control of it by understanding that you are the hero in your own story, and then designing your life to fulfill that journey. So rather than being necessarily just pushed around by the world, you can pull things to you by taking decisive action that forces other people and environment and things to respond to you in different ways. So you can do that in multiple different ways. One way you can do that is by really dialing in specific habits. And it's almost like if you hit the same spot with a hammer over and over and over and over and over again, you're chiseling a rock, eventually that piece will shatter and the rock will break. And it's not any single strike that created that change. It's some accumulation of those strikes. That's the habit process physically demonstrated. So sometimes you need to change your habits. Other times you need to, or I'd say the first option is completely aligning your habits and getting dialed in. The second thing you can do is completely change your habits. So it's doing something completely different than you're already doing. It's changing what you eat, changing who you hang out with, changing what activities you do, changing how you think. And so rather than installing your current habits more deeply, you're actually discarding your current habits and doing something different. Wiping the slate clean, going Joe Dispenza, just going completely 180. And that sometimes can be a necessary change in order to shake up your life in a positive way that starts to snap you out of this stuck in the past or projecting to the future thing, and just being present, dialing in, and then making those changes that actually affect the algorithm of the world, affect the feedback you get from the environment and others when you're either dialing in on your habits or completely changing your habits. And this is how you can start to take control of the outcomes in your life, or start to take control of the inputs and have the outcomes present themselves. Because oftentimes we don't have control over the outputs. We only have control over the inputs. But as Dispenza would say, if you're doing the same inputs every day, you're going to create a predictable future, right? If you have a predictable present, you have a predictable future. And the predictable future is often, or the predictable present is often something that we don't even realize that we're manufacturing. We expect the world around us to change. We expect the physical world around us to change in response to us doing the same thing every day. But really, it's us that needs to change in order to get that feedback from the environment. So for some people who are being chaotic, dialing in your habits is the positive change. And so becoming more consistent or boring is the change. For people who are already very regimented and need something different introduced, losing some of that structure and going to something that's either less structured or completely different in a different way would be the necessary change. But either way, you as the actor in your play are making those decisions to create the different input, or to create the different output from your input. Reality is very complicated. That's all I got to talk about today. This has just been some mindset stuff, some philosophy stuff. And I find that thinking about life like this in the meta can be really helpful. um, as we look to do more like granular and strategic things in business where we're talking about specifics, KPIs and ROI and ROAS, like these are the nitty gritties of business and life. But I also love talking about the high level strategy and the metaphysical element of living because I feel like to have both perspectives, the wide lens and the close up, help you to understand what it is you're dealing with and looking at when you look at the world, which is why we always write books at New Wave on like health, wealth, and mindset. And we want to work with authors who really understand that there are different strategies for success, and some of those strategies come in unconventional and esoteric ways even. And there's a blend of spirituality and a more intuitive way of living in the world that can still benefit you as someone who appreciates business and even capitalism. So, and if you're an author like that, by the way, and you have an expertise that you want to share with the world, I'll put the link below. And if you liked this video and you want to see more like this, type mindset in the comments. And yeah, I like to see my tribe here. Stay present, stay focused, and catch you on this new wave. Peace.